fun when it flips around this way. And then we do this. Alrighty, let's see if we have anyone here.
Wayfair has a nice price.
Almost there. Oh, look. Oh, yes, let's make sure we have some audio. Oh, yes, let's make sure we have some audio. And we do. Well, hello, friends. Let me figure out my mic cable situation and take the strap off this old guitar. I'm going to say hello to everybody. Chris Quinn. Somehow avoid getting a deluxe reverb. Nope, I picked up a Lewis Electric Deltone. Nice. John Verheyen. First time for an Ask Zac Live. I've always been a Tele guy since I first started playing. My first American Fender was an 83 Telecaster. Yes, a top loader, 83. You have me going down the Tele rabbit hole. Good. I said stumbled across your channel about a month ago and have learned so much watching all your videos. About halfway done with the whole video collection. Wow, that's impressive. I've got at least like 170 episodes. Songwriter's Journey. Hey Zac, I'm listening while I work. Don't tell my boss. I won't. Captain Sexy 90. Hey Zac, hello to you. John W. says, hi from Ojai, California. Well, hello. Red Cat, hi. Lucky B, howdy Zac, good to see you, Lucky B. Shad, yes, hello there. Shad is another, along with Captain Sexy, they are Patreon members, and I appreciate those guys a whole lot. Let's see, Eddie Long, been a Teleman since 71, watch all your videos. Nice. Eddie, tell me what's your best Telecaster? Totally Tuberous. Howdy from Mass. Victor BB says, aloha everyone. I hope that's, you don't have to be from Hawaii to say aloha, but it does help. I've always wanted to be, that's the only state I haven't been to. I haven't been to Hawaii yet. I've been to 49 out of 50 states. I just need to go to Hawaii. So yes. Oh, let's see, love what you do, man. From Guitar Picker, Ned H says, howdy. Well, howdy back. Chappie says, howdy from San Diego. Love San Diego. I was down there last year to go visit Ron Ellis and go to the zoo, and yes. Captain Sexy says, Zac, what is your take on JBL E120? Just bought a cab loaded with 2 of them. Yes, 77 pounds. They sound great. It's just they're really heavy, and ceramic magnet speakers are heavier than Alnico magnet speakers, and it just has to do with, so let's say you have a 30 watt Alnico and a 30 watt ceramic speaker. Well, the ceramic is going to weigh more, and so the difference is that the E120 JBL was the first of their, that's what replaced the D and K series. So we had the D series in the 40s, 50s, 60s, early 70s, and then the K series came out in the mid 70s, and that was still an Alnico magnet, but then they switched with the E series. That became ceramic, and yes, they are much heavier. Let's see. Lucky B, same Zac, it's good to see you. It's good to see you. Eddie Long says, used to have a 68, currently have 7 Teles. 62 customer issue is my favorite. That's a very good model. I've had a couple of those through the years, made in Japan ones, and they were really good guitars. Victor BB says, Zac, find some time to come. All right. Well, I guess I need to go to Hawaii, so I want to go there. Let's see. That's, I don't know, I can't remember where I picked this up, but I've gotten really obsessed with playing a, like a 13 add 9 chord and then tapping on the flatted 5th. Just has a neat sound. Even when doing the, like the Ask Zac theme on the neck pickup, of course. Ooh! So of course here the flatted 5th is the E, because the F would be the normal 5th. All right, Bruce Robinault, good to see you. Red Z Jazz, Telecaster Bear, nice. Got a good group of guys. So, you know, today I just wanted to catch up with you guys, answer questions, also kind of give you an update. I'm going to take a, I've been going pretty much 3 years straight with this show, and I'm just going to take a little bit of time off. I'm a little tired, and also it's kind of been a busy summer and such, and so I'm going to probably take maybe 2 or 3 weeks off. So in saying that, I am going to keep doing some posts for my Patreon people because they support me, financially on a monthly basis. So I am going to be doing, some episodes on different, topics, for them. So, but I'm not going to be doing full-fledged, YouTube episodes for the next couple of weeks. So that's just me taking a little bit of a break, and and just kind of able to regroup and also do some research and work on some things for future episodes. So, just wanted to throw that out there. Songwriter journey. In your episode, you showcased your 6 tellies. You have a 60s Bigsby in there, non-string through. Have you ever compared the Ventera 60 to that? If so, any opinion on difference in sound, feel? Oh, wow. You know what? Every telly sounds and feels different to a degree. I think one of the big things that makes a big difference is break angle of the strings, and also how deeply the neck sits into the body, which has to do with how high or low you have to set the bridge saddles. And so that Bigsby telly feels very different because it doesn't have a string through body, because the strings are going over the bridge like this as opposed to up and then over. It's a much less stiff feel on a Bigsby telly. Yeah. So as far as the Venteras, I've played a couple of Venteras, and they were all great. But I mean, it all depends. It all goes from guitar to guitar. It's like, do you want to find a good guitar? Well, play as many Telecaster or good Telecaster. Play as many as you can, and find the one that really speaks to you. All right. Thanks for all the informative stuff. Let's see. Hi, hello, Kevin Williams. And here it looks like Totally Tuberous is saying Acton, Mass. So yeah, that's one thing I want to probably going to be doing an episode on bridges at some point. So gonna talk about the different. Also, I just got in a Bigsby palm pedal from my good friend Chip Thomas. He sent it to me, and so I'm going to. In fact, it's sitting on my desk over here. I'm going to do an episode on Bigsby palm pedals at some point. So again, I need some time to do a little bit of research and such. Let's see. Sonia H says, I'm proofreading transcripts while trying to listen. Well, I hope that works out well for you, Sonia. Ruiz says, Zach, any thoughts on Fender's no-caster pickups? I'm thinking about getting an affordable Player Series Tele. There's a limited edition with no casters in it. I think it's a good sounding pickup. You know, that's a good one. A similar pickup if you're just looking for a good, inexpensive early Telecaster, you know, pickup would be the Duncan Antiquity flat pole, you know, 50s one. That's a good pickup. Mark Larkin says, greetings, Zach. Greetings to you, Mark. Telecaster Bear says, I sure agree with that. I have same gauge flat wounds on a P bass and string through body Telecaster bass, stiffer playing on the through body models. Absolutely. That's something that I think, you know, there's been a number of videos about, you know, top loader teles, and you know, Joe Glazer actually asked me, he said, you need to do an episode about top loaders. And I was like, well, there's a couple of episodes out there, so I'm still thinking about if I should do that or not. But yes, it makes a huge difference. And people go crazy when you talk about it, feeling like there's more tension. And I don't know what the right word is, but the break angle definitely changes the feel. And I don't know what verbiage should be used to describe it, but it absolutely changes the way the guitar feels, having the guitar strung through the body versus you know, top loading. Let's see. I have not played a made in Mexico one. What model was that again? Let's see, we gotta go back. I have played the Nashville Player Plus from the made in Mexico ones. Those are really cool. I enjoyed it. Tom Bukovac mentioned how the old threaded saddles make the guitar sound sitar-ish. Are they generally thought of as worse than stainless or non-threaded steel? Yeah, they are problematic. So because of the way they're threaded and because of the way the string kind of goes across them, and it doesn't really match up. It's not like you have a perfect groove, because the groove's kind of like this. And sometimes you can get some burrs on it, and yes, there can be a sitar effect, and then you have to kind of get rid of that burr somehow. You have to sand it down, smooth it down somehow. And so, yes, old Bukovac is correct, and bright guy. Oh, Keith McConchy says, did you start early? Yes, I did. I just, you know, I saw some people that were on, and I decided to just go ahead and get going. Eddie Long says, I like the Texas Special pickups really well. Those are great. Do you own a Tele Deluxe? Is it a real Tele? Sure, absolutely. I don't. You know, I own, you know, I did a whole episode on my 6 Telecasters, and they're all pretty traditional, except for, you know, of course, two of them have B-benders, and one has a Bigsby on it. Shad says, hey, Zach, I have an all-original 67 Esquire. If I tellied it, would it devalue the guitar? Yes, if it's all original, I would not do it. The reason I did it to this guitar was because the body had been refinished, the pickup was dead, it had to be refretted, it had to have a lot of work done to it. And so I didn't feel too bad about drilling the 2 little small holes for the, you know, for the pickup to go into. I would look underneath the pick guard, and if someone has already done that before in the past, if there are the 2 little holes, then I wouldn't have any issue with it. And also, it just depends on how minty fresh it is. But I guess I'd kind of, you know, tell you to not do that. You could do a pick guard mounted pickup without modifying the guitar. You would just get another pick guard, and you could do that, and that would be a way around that. And then if you just really are heavily committed to it, you could think about it. Tom Burkhardt, I'm late. I wanted to be on time. I started early. Don't feel bad. Oh, I'm sorry that you have COVID. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. That is rough. Let's see. Mark says, your opinion of a new Fender Deluxe amp. I think they're really great. I personally feel like you need to clip the bright cap on them, or use the normal channel, which then of course you don't get reverb. So yeah, I clipped that, but that's kind of it. Oh, let's see, John Verheyen. Any general thoughts on Telecaster pickup height? You seem to like yours really close to the strings. Yeah, I do like them, you know. I don't use really, the key to that is you can't use really high output pickups. You can't have really strong magnets. And so what I do, and people have, basically I push down the high E string on the top fret, and then I make sure the neck pickup is not touching it, but I get it where it's just right underneath it. And then I get it to where the output is set the same, and then I go back and set the bridge to correspond. And I've just found that to be a good sound. I know a lot of people, like if you had JD Simo asking him, I mean, he will get really, I mean, he'll turn the amp on 10 and he'll start moving the pickup around until he feels like the note is blooming more. And so that's a level that I don't do, but I certainly respect it. JD gets an amazing sound. DB talks about, a bent high E6 inline tuner. Can you buy a single tuner? Absolutely you can. Yeah, you can just get on Fender or Fender.com, or you can get on Reverb.com and just get a single Kluson tuner. Just make sure it matches, make sure it's got the same markings. And of course, if you need, you're gonna need an end one, which might be a little bit more difficult to get, but you should be able to get it. In worst case scenario, buy a whole set and you got a set of spares. Oh, I've just missed a couple posts. I'm gonna go back up here a little bit. Oh, watching from the Netherlands, a cheap guitar with an expensive amp or an expensive guitar with a cheap amp. Definitely go with the expensive amp and the cheap guitar. Telly Roo says hello from Tiger Mountain, Washington. Goldie71, did you any experience with the Bigsby pedal? No, I have no experience of that. I'm actually pretty curious about that. I just haven't checked it out. Avery's Bragg Book says, greetings. Big Duke Frank, Rhett Tillery. Just upgraded my Telly with Texas Specials. Wired it like you with no tone control in the neck pickup. Love it. Thanks for the info. You are very welcome. That is the mod I do on every one of my guitars. You missed my question unless I missed the answer, Chris Quinn. Can you ask it again, Chris? I will do my best. Somehow things are popping up in between other comments. Let's see. I'd like to get my USA Telecaster body refinished. Any recommendations? Yeah, I mean, a good refin is a lot of money. And I would look into, perhaps doing it yourself, or or you need to contact someone like Guitar Mill. I know guys like Telecaster and Regio guitars that they do refins, but usually they only do really high-end vintage stuff. Have you heard a new Marty Superlative album? Yes, I think it's great. It's a fantastic album. Wilson Jones, I have 9 amazing Tellys from a 63 to a Paisley custom shop, and I can play 5 chords. That's good. That's real good. And yeah, a 63 Telly is a great one. That's a really good year for that kind of round lamb rosewood board. Itchy Brutta, have you played the Cobalt Chrome pickups? No, I have not. There are many things I have not tried yet. I try to keep up with things, but I can't keep up with everything. Oh, I can't wait to wire my Telecaster for tone to bridge modification. Yeah, it's on my website, and yeah, it's great. I know you're buddies with Keith Williams. What do you think of the Strandberg he has? The shape is too wild for my taste, but he wanted to know what you think. It's too small for me. I mean, Keith is not as husky as I am, and so he enjoys a smaller body. But for me, if I get anything smaller than this, it feels like a mandolin. And I do play mandolin, but it's like I feel like I feel like Godzilla playing a ukulele, when I play anything smaller than a Telecaster. Even a Les Paul feels strange because it's smaller. Dan Morris says, hi from the shadow of Tiger Mountain in Issaquah. Yeah, thank you for the pronunciation there. Washington. Nice. Wayne, I took up guitar at 65 to help keep the mind sharp and the fingers nimble for trying fishing knots. I just sold my boat and bought a Telly. Nice. Though my son would be upset with you because my son's a big fisherman, but I'm glad you're playing the guitar. Jeffrey Hudson, I own 32 guitars, 5 are Tellys. You played my 54 J185 at Glazers. Yeah, that's a great guitar, Jeffrey. Hoping Chris Quinn comes back around with his question, because I can't go all the way back. Jason Barrow says, Antiquity 2 or La Brea for an all-around rhythm player who needs some guts. Oh, I would go with the La Brea Bridge. The La Brea neck is pretty dark, and I would go with like a 64 Fender, reissue neck pickup, and I'd get the La Brea Bridge pickup. That's a good beefy. It has a little more beef than the Antiquity 2. Itchy Brother. All right. Chris Quinn says, bought a Lewis Electric Deltone Deluxe Reverb. Have you played one? No, I have not played one, Chris. I have played some Lewis Electric amps before, but I've never played that one. But one of the things I've learned is there are a lot of really good amp builders now. And, part of it is because the parts are a lot easier to get than they were, back in the day. You don't have to order thousands of something. And so guys can make small runs of amps. And so, like, I'm using this Headstrong Little King. I mean, really, this Headstrong's been my main amp since March. I've been pretty much using it for almost everything. I've taken the Tone Master once or twice when I was at that Chet Atkins thing, and I was running all over a hotel with it. But yeah. Let's see. Wilson Jones, my 63 is a super rare maple cap. Wow. That is kind of a dream guitar, for me. I mean, I love my 57, but it's like if I was going to get another Telly, I would love to have an earlier maple cap than my 67 over here. So, very cool guitar. Let's see. It's back, Tiger Mountain AA. Jason Burrow says, I'll tell Duncan you sent me and razz them my Jerry Donahue kicked the bucket. Oh, well, they might warranty that or help you out with that. But yeah, Duncan makes great stuff. Songwriter Journey. Any opinion on Seymour Duncan quarter pounders in a Telly? Yes, they are very fat, high output. They have less twang. If you're wanting to push it away from the twang factor and be beefier, it's great. And of course you need to be careful about not setting the height too high. So in other words, you don't want to get them too close to the strings because those are much bigger magnets than on a normal Telly. Those are good sounding pickups though. Do you like using in-ear monitors? Yes, I do, because so many bands play way too freaking loud now. And the sound, the volume level on stage is so high now for a lot of bands that I pretty much use in-ear monitors most of the time, just because that's a way that I can protect my hearing, because I'm 50 and I don't want to go deaf yet. I did play using wedges at the Chet Atkins event, though I was probably one of the younger guys there on the stage at that time, besides my friend Megan and Ben Hall. So let's see. Which ones am I using? I'm using the cheapest Shure models that they make. And, I think I got them on Amazon. They were less than $150. I think I paid $100 for them, and they're good. My dog's growling. Let's see. Eddie Long says, I have a Radial PB1 Power Boost. Yeah, that is a good boost. That's one that Marty Stewart and Kenny Vaughn used for a long time, and I think Marty Stewart still uses his. It's a really good boost pedal. Maintains the Teletone. I agree. Otto von Fiedermaus. Hi Zach, love the show. What amp would you advise for home practice that has reverb? I'm looking at a Supro Delta King. Any suggestions? Thanks. Well, I really like, I love the Deluxe Reverb amp. The Tone Master is really good. Of course, Fender makes the Champ, the Champ with reverb. That's kind of a cool amp. I guess it just depends on how much money you want to spend. But I think a good Princeton would be really nice. Or, if you, Peavey made this amp called the Backstage Pro. in the 80s that you can find for like 150 bucks, and it's a good little transistorized amp with reverb on it. You know, it just depends on, you know, how much money you're wanting to spend. I mean, you could go anywhere from $150 to, you know, obviously you could go really expensive. If you're just doing home use, I wouldn't really go any bigger than a Princeton, really. So, you know, but yeah. Let's see. Oh, Jesse Harmon says, any insight on how Red Rhodes Velvet Hammer pickups work? Apparently it's some type of dual, you know, tapped pickup, and where you had kind of like partial output and then you had more. There's a lot of debate about this, and you know, having a real one that, you know, that Red Rhodes actually wound. I mean, and it's a possibility he did different versions. I've always wanted to get my hands on James Burton's 69 Paisley to see what the pickup does. When I asked James Burton about it, he said when you flicked the switch, which gave full output on it, it made it sound more like a humbucker. So it was obviously, you know, using part of the winds and then all of the winds. So, or I don't know if it's two different coils or not. Oh, let's see. Don't mean to clog the chat. Did you learn songs by ear or tab? Mainly by ear. Oh, let's see. Interesting tone. I discovered, placed my chrome ashtray cover over my telebridge just out of curiosity, and I heard a good tone difference. There is a slight tone difference. I don't know where mine, oh, mine's right here. So talking with Red Volkart and with Nacho, who wrote the Pinecaster and Blackguard books, we agreed that there was a tonal difference, but it was something you would not hear in a band context, but you definitely can hear it when you're just playing by yourself and you have the cover on and you take the cover off. It changes kind of the magnetic field and the response of the magnet somehow. I'm going to get in trouble for saying anything like that, but yes, it definitely sounds different to me. Oh, let's see. Saw where Standell is under new ownership and starting more products. Have you tried any new ones? Not yet. I heard about that OC Duff pickup guy was doing that. So yeah, I would love to try out a Standell amplifier. That's what, you know, Reggie Young used one, you know, before he got a deluxe reverb in the mid '60s, and of course, so many great players, Chad Atkins and Buddy Emmons and Joe Maphis, and so many guys used Standell amps. Oh, let's see. Telly Pierce would be sick, but I played quarter pounder in the neck, humbucker in the bridge. Oh, that's cool. Let's see. Hey, Zach, do you have any recommendations of builders for 50s Telly pickups? Ron Ellis, either the, you know, what is it, the 52T or the 50B. Or if you want to go a little less expensive, go with Arcane. And if you want to go budget, go the Duncan Antiquity. Did you hear about James Burton playing London last week? Well, that was more than last week. That was you know, at least a month ago. But yes, I did hear about that. Acoustic player may venture into electric world. Are new Fender Telecasters okay for a novice? Absolutely. My favorite new ones are the Made in Mexico Road Warns and the Venteras. So I think those are really, really, really great. Wilson Jones corrected himself last month. Yes, I heard about that. Are the new vintage Fender Vintage 2s any good? They are. However, some of them have been very heavy. I had a thin line that was a boat anchor. So just be specific, you know, when you're buying them, you know, get the weight on it first. But they are very nice guitars. Let's see, Blues Junior's great amp, absolutely. For an affordable practice amp, it gets loud. The Super Champ 2, that's a great amp. Very happy with my Pig Nose. See, we're getting some good recommendations. Oh, let's see. See, I'm getting past the Backstage Plus. Yeah. How's your vintage AC10 treating you? Got a 64, love mine. I love mine. I was actually playing through it just the other day and thinking about taking it on a run of shows, and then I found out I'm going to have to fly, so I'm going to be going direct. So yeah, I've been wanting to use my AC-10 and haven't been able to. Have you ever heard of a 90s mini Fender Tele with the Fender Fishman Piezo pickup? I don't know that guitar. Kevin D, just wanting to say thanks to all the great information you put out. Thank you. Do you use a different pick when playing a Tele versus acoustic? Thanks. Sometimes I'll use I use a heavy pick when playing a Telecaster, and I'll use a medium pick when I'm strumming on an acoustic. But if I'm playing lead, soloing on acoustic, I'll use a heavy also. Let's see, Quilter US Aviator Club is a great in-home amp, great for stage use. Good to know. Thank you, Kevin. The Tweed cover. All right. I heard Cliff Gallup had a Standell. I wouldn't doubt it. Jason Isbell has a sick signature model. Nice. Let's see. You just commented on PV solid state amps. Ever played a Quilter? I haven't played a Quilter yet. People talk about Quilters all the time, and I just haven't played them. Oh, Cliff may have recorded with some type of Tweed, though. Chris is probably right. Y'all, yeah, this is all coming in quick. Have you played a 63 vintage reissue? I think it's a mahogany bodied. I've wanted to play one of the 63 reissues with the mahogany body just to hear what that would sound like. Because it's a straight up traditional Tele and it's just you've changed the body wood. I'd like to hear what that does. I know Red Volkart built one like that because those are extremely rare. Mark Larkin's Music says, Zach, I'm using a Fender Cyberchamp amp as my gigging amp. Nice. No pedals needed. Just presets from A to G. Oh, that's cool. Whatever works is great. I mean, that's the thing. People always talk, it's like, does it sound good to you? Does it sound good to the audience? Well, that's what's important. Lucky B. He's asking about a pig nose for bass. I'm not aware of one, but there could be. Wilson Jones is being very nice. He says, everybody hit like for Zach. He deserves it for helping us all out. Thank you. John W., let's see. Jesse Harmon, why did G&L never manufacture amps? Because it was too expensive to get into it. G&L never was a big company. And Leo just had no interest in doing amps. I mean, he really wasn't, he had very little involvement in Music Man amplifiers. People, he designed the RD50 preamp thing that had a tube. But otherwise, he was not real involved even with Music Man. So after Fender, Leo really didn't want to be involved in that. And so that's why they didn't do amplifiers. Oh, let's see. Zach, what's your opinion on Class D amps like the Milkman, the amp? Colin, I've really wanted to play one of those because, Rick Holmstrom, who plays with Mavis Staples, he uses one as a preamp and he runs it into a reissue Vox AC-15. And that's, because they do pretty much all their shows as fly dates. And so he has a Milkman, the amp, which of course is a 50-watt amp, and then it has reverb and tremolo on it. And he runs that as a preamp only. He's not running the power amp part of it, and he runs it straight into those. And then also, it's basically a backup amp that's built in, so he can just run an XLR or a speaker cabinet off of that. And so I've actually been very, very curious about those, because I'm doing more fly dates coming up in September. I'm going to be going out to Vegas and I'm going to be playing in September in Vegas for a whole week. And then I'm going to be playing in Tulsa right after that. And I'm going to have to fly out, play a week in Vegas, then fly to Tulsa and then come home. So I won't be able to have an amp at all. And so I recently picked up a Universal Audio Dream 65, which is their deluxe reverb type modeler. And the reason I picked it up was it has reverb and tremolo built into it, which the Strymon Iridium, which I've been using for the last couple of years, does not. And it means that I can just use my regular pedal board and then just add that at the end. instead of feeling like, okay, I've got to have my regular pedal board, add a reverb and tremolo pedal, and then go into that. All right. Have you tried Nash guitars? They're great. I've just never really, I never bonded with one. I haven't played that many of them. A lot of guys that I know own them and like them, and like Papa Stash and other cats. He has that old red, Nash guitar that he plays a lot, and he loves it. So, Psionic Audio. Hey Zach, I'm about to be up on a ladder sending Bondo. Figured I'd say hi before my world turns to dust. Well, be safe and please wear protection, as it were, so you don't breathe all that crap in. So yeah, stay alive. Daniel Moore says, we're in Tulsa. I'm going to be playing at the Hard Rock on a Friday. Let's see. I'll have to post these dates at some point. And then there's a private show we're playing the night afterwards. And I think Thursday night of that week, what day is that? It's like the 28th or something like that of September. I'll be playing in Siloam Springs, Oklahoma, which is right on the border with Arkansas, on a Thursday, then the Hard Rock Casino on Friday, and then a private thing on Saturday night in Tulsa. Yes, and that's what Tom Hamby was asking too. Jeff Hudson said, I had a Milkman amp 50 watt, wasn't loud. Since then I've made 100 watt, but not sure if it has tremolo. Yeah, to me, you'd have to have the reverb and tremolo on the thing. Wilson Jones, I'm so glad I found Zach's channel these last years. I love Standard Tele, love Clean, love Reggie, Steve Cropper, James B, and he was so tired of all the heavier rock channels. What can I say? I love playing cleaner myself. That was always kind of the sounds that I dug, What are the big differences between late 60s Telecasters and early 70s Telecasters? Basically zero after, once you get to 1969. So a 67 or early 68 Tele will still have cloth covered wires and will still have a lacquer finish. But after about mid 68, you start getting where the neck and body finish are poly, mostly poly. And there's really not a huge difference between a 69, a 70, 71, 72. 73, it seems like around there, the finishes starting getting thicker, especially 74, 75, you start getting really heavy finishes. But yeah, there's very little difference between a 69 and a 71 or 72 Tele. But there's a difference in price because there's just a 60s, 70s kind of thing, even though it's all CBS. Oh, Guitar Picker. I read somewhere that Leon Rhodes often used a Tele in recording sessions. He played an Epiphone Sheraton live for years. Have you heard that? I know he played a G&L later in his life. Yeah, Leon in the 60s played a Sheraton a lot, with Ernest Tubb. And then kind of due to the demands of the studio, he started playing, Telecasters, and by the 80s he was using this Tele that had, the mini humbucker and a Strat pickup in the middle, kind of a common thing, like the Brent Mason type thing. It was very common just because of all the sounds you could cover. Was it perfect? No, but it did it well. And the G&L that he played was really cool. It was kind of an early ASAT with the pickups in very different positions, and really smooth guitar and guitarist. And he did not bend strings. Everything he did was, straight. And he had his action really low and really fast, and he was so clean with his playing. Leon Rhodes was a true great, and I need to do an episode about him. Let's see, forgot to ask, is your arthritis better? And if so, what's your secret? Yes, I'm very glad to say that my arthritis is better. I still have it. I mean, I'll have it the rest of my life, but right now it is doing better. I have been, going on about 70 days sugar-free and alcohol-free. And then also I've been, doing what my therapist told me. I've been doing certain exercises. I also have a hand brace that I wear when I'm doing yard work, or even if I'm stringing up a guitar, because I have to be very careful about the movements that I allow this hand to do. And it has to do with hyperextending this thumb. And so if this thumb comes back real far and I start doing strange things, then it will start hurting, and it can hurt for days. And also, I use lighter gauge strings. I take turmeric, and I take chondroitin that I just get from, Sam's Club or Costco. And yeah, so just being more careful about what I eat, trying to watch out for things that cause inflammation. So thank you for asking, Rocky Road. DB says, living on Tulsa Time. Yes, Time. I love playing that tune. It's a good one. Oh, let's see. Darren Paul, what's your ideal weight for a telly? I like 6.5 to 7 pounds. This is 6.5 pounds, and it's a really great weight. You can play it, for a 4-hour gig and not get tired. When a telly gets over 8 pounds, I like them up to 8 pounds. 8 pounds is kind of my limit for a Telecaster, especially if you're going to play it, for a couple hours standing up. And but my ideal weight is between 6.5 and 7. I just think it's a good weight. I know the answer here, but you ever tried Amplitude? I have not. I have not tried that. I've only done amp modeling in pedal formats, like either the Pod going back many years ago, and then of course I've used the Strymon Iridium that I have here in the box that I was using the last couple of years, and then I just got this Universal Audio Dream 65, again because it has reverb and tremolo built into it, which means I don't have to add 2 pedals when I use it from my regular board. Oh, let's see. What is your opinion on lacquer and sound? Well, wow, that's a tough one. There's all this stuff about, plastic and all that. I don't know. I've played a bunch of really great sounding guitars that had poly on them. To me, it's just, is it a good guitar or not? Sometimes poly guitars that haven't been played a lot, they can feel kind of sticky, and it feels like you almost want to take, fine grit sandpaper and kind of smooth out the back of the neck some, but of course you don't want to ruin the value of a guitar. Yeah, so I just kind of try to, I like lacquer better, just because it kind of feels better to your skin and your hand. But I have a 69 Telly that has all poly body and neck, and it's a great guitar. Oh, turmeric helps hot 8. Which artist would you recommend, someone from England where country isn't mainstream, to take a deep dive into? I'm a big fan of Brad Paisley, Merle, for instance. Yeah, Jack, yeah, I'd start listening to Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard and Buck Owens, Johnny Cash. Go back and listen to Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, the Tiffany transcriptions. Listen to Emmylou Harris and the Hot Band from the 70s. That's when she had James Burton and Albert Lee and Ricky Skaggs and Rodney Crowell in her band, especially the albums Luxury Liner and Elite Hotel. That's the first thing I do. Go get Emmylou Harris, Luxury Liner, and Elite Hotel, and listen to those. And get Ricky Skaggs Live from London. That'll get you started. Notice arthritis in my left knee and right hand eased up when I stopped drinking and smoking. Yeah, there's just something about the things you put in your body that affect inflammation. Unfortunately, a guitar, everyone says the Dream 65 is great. Lucky B says, congrats, Zach. Whatever you do, don't do nothing that will get a hold of you. I'll do my best, Lucky B. I'm getting baited by JD Simo. He's asking me to tell my thoughts on Flying Princess Leia, and I'm not gonna do it. Damn it, I'm gonna do it anyway. I don't like it. I don't like it, but I respect that a lot of talented people worked on those movies, and I appreciate their hard work, but I did not like flying Princess Leia. All right, people have gotten pissed at me over this, but anyway, thank you for chiming in, JD. Maybe you need to say something more controversial. Let's see. Chris Quinn, are you familiar with Denny Diaz from Steely Dan? Yes, I am. I really liked his work on, of course, the early stuff, and then he played on the Asia album. He played on a cutter too, and he played some really amazing solos. What a great improviser, Denny Diaz, and a fat telly tone. Yeah, yeah, and I believe that's him. Yeah, on the Coral sitar and Do It Again. Jason T says Gibson tone polish will fix it. All right. What are your thoughts on the TBX circuit on the late 80s American standards? I thought it was kind of goofy because, and this is maybe unkind on my part, but I didn't think any Fender guitar needed to be brighter in the 1980s. I was like, I was always trying to tame them. It's like the first thing I do when I got an 80s Fender, you know, especially an American-made one, is I'd go get some Seymour Duncan Alnico 2 Pro Strat or Tele pickups and put it in there because you had to tame the high end on them. I mean, there were just so many bright Fender guitars in the 80s. It seemed like it was just always a fight to tame the high end. Yeah, and the TBX took the tone control out of the circuit, and which of course made it brighter, which probably was a nice thing on the neck pickup, but not on the bridge pickup. Do you think the hand exercise tools increase or decrease hand issues? I don't know. It depends on what kind of problems you have. I know I have to be careful what hand exercises I do and how much resistance. And so I have some exercises that I do, and you know, I just have to be careful about that. And I have to be careful about how I use my thumb. So definitely see a professional. Oh, DB says, how do you run the UA Deluxe? Straight out to the PA? Well, I just got it, and that's the way I'm going to run it, is straight out to the PA. So into a direct box, probably a radial, and then into the PA. That's the way I've run the Strymon Iridium. Caleb Milo, in your opinion, what are a few albums that feature great pedal steel? Dude, go get Ray Price's Nightlife album and hear all that great work by Buddy Emmons. And yeah, also, let's see, what are other things with great pedal steel? Tom Brumley on Together Again, and his work on the Buck Owens, you know, like mid-60s records is really wonderful. J.D. Maness's work with the Desert Rose Band, that's great, great work. Who's your favorite guitarist and why is it Chet Atkins? If I had to list my favorite guitarists, it probably would be Reggie Young and James Burton. So, Itchy Brother says, does JD still unplug to use a tuner, then plug back in, or has the clip revolution given him a break? I think he's used a clip-on. Yeah, I think he's got a clip-on. He uses a clip-on tie also. No, actually, he knows how to tie a tie. Skunk Baxter was a telly player back then also. He was. I liked the funky telly he played with Burns pickups on it that he played with the doobies, and he would sit down and play, and he played through like Ampeg amps. Yeah, he played some really cool stuff. Visual Guy. Hi, Zach. Just want to say I love my Danocaster, and I love the interview you did with Dan. That was a lot of fun, and that's a rare thing. Dan does not like to do interviews. He's just kind of a private guy, and so it was a favor for him. It was yeah, and so I appreciated him doing that, and I'm glad you enjoyed it because it was special, and he's a good friend. What about? I don't get into politics, Lucky B, and I don't care. You know, to me, it's like, you know, either you like something or you don't. I don't get into that stuff. It's not worth it. But I appreciate you, appreciate you chiming in, Lucky B. But I'm not going to get into any of that. How do you handle your guitar on fly dates? I put it in a gig bag, and I sometimes will pay extra on Southwest to be in one of the early boarding group. So I'll pay for early check-in, or like I'm going to Vegas and I paid extra so that I could, because I'll probably bring a double gig bag with two Telecasters in it. So that's the way I deal with that. I use a double gig bag that I bought from JD that he sold me when he was having a yard sale. And yeah. Oh, guitar, everyone says definitely use a direct box with the Dream 65, and not, it will sound very shrill. I agree. James Burton is the best ever. I agree with that. Jason Hobbs, what's your choice of overdrive for a vintage deluxe reverb? I like the Mostortion. It's the old Ibanez Mostortion, and then there's a copy made by Karma, and it's just as good, and it's a lot less expensive. So yeah, and then there's the silver. Dan Electro makes a Roebuck pedal, which is also a copy of the Mostortion. But yeah, that's my favorite. It's got 3-band EQ, and it's a good overdrive sound, and it does a good job. Yusuf123, do you have any experience with Dr. Z amps like the Z-Lux or Z-Rec? Yes, I do. I played through a bunch of Dr. Z amps back in the day, and I know Dr. Z, and of course I worked for Brad Paisley. I think they're great. I think I just found that I'm a Fender guy, and I liked his more Fendery sounding stuff, but at the end of the day, I've got a vintage 65 Deluxe Reverb, and then I really like this little Headstrong amp. Those are kind of the things I'm using the most right now. Have you heard Matt Lee? He is very talented. JD Simon says, all seriousness, I love you and love these. You spread truth and are probably the best researcher I've ever known. Gonna be down your way in a bit. Probably stop by. Nice. Maybe we'll have a cup of coffee or something like that, or a Topo Chico. I'll have to put Topo Chico in the freezer so that we can share a cold mineral water. And if you know anyone with Topo Chico, JD and I are both looking for an endorsement because we're addicted to Topo Chico because it's good. Anybody heard Red Roads on Ventures in Space album? That will part your hair. Nice. I'll have to check that out. Wilson Jones, Skunk was at the Burton gig sitting down. He played behind every act to support James. Yeah, Skunk's still a great player. Christy Blake, what are your go-to recommendation for strings? I've wanted to experiment more, but because of my arthritis, I've had to kind of stick to 9.5s. And as my hand strength gets better, I do want to do some experimentation with String Joy Pure Nickel, which I have some, but I'm needing to build my hand strength back up. So I'm using 9.5 through 44 NYXL D'Addario strings, and they're great. They last a long time. But yeah, I would like to check out some other things, but I just haven't been able to with this. But yeah, strings are such a big part of your sound and feel, and sometimes it's fun to kind of experiment with some. But yeah, try the D'Addario 9.5s, 9.5 through 44. It's a cool set. Let's see, Joe Henriksen, what do you think about the 60s Princeton non-reverb? It's a very cool amp. I just miss having reverb so much that I'd almost rather play through a copy amp with reverb than not have it. But they're really good sounding amps. I'm just gonna have to put a reverb pedal or a reverb tank in front of it. So, yes. Let's see, Basil Tiffany. JD played one of the best solos I ever heard. Was a show with Bonamassa. JD was playing a 212 Victoria, so beautiful. Sounded like the guitar was crying hysterically. Well, JD is a phenomenal player and just as good of a person, and he's been a good friend for a long time. And yeah, good guy. Look forward to seeing him later today. Joe T says, do you record with reverb or add it in post? You know, there was a time where producers were pretty strict about effects, especially spatial effects, but that was a long time ago. We're talking about 80s, early 90s, where at least here in Nashville, where guys were like, don't, turn the reverb off. That's not such a big, now they take your sound how it is. And sometimes they might tell you, can you turn the reverb down some, or can you back off your delays some? But most of the time, you're effects are printed to tape, as it were, even though, of course, it's going to Pro Tools or whatever software it is. But yeah, and so I prefer to have reverb on. Yes. What's your favorite era in country music? Late 60s. I really liked the late 60s work of Merle Haggard and Buck Owens. And of course, I also liked the country rock stuff that was coming. And going into the mid 70s with Emmylou and the Hot Band and Graham Parsons. And I think there are just a lot of cool records from that era. And I mean, I could just keep on going, but we'll stick with that. Get a hold of Ryan Bruce and Riffs, Bears, and Gear. I think you might have a Topo Chico endorsement. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll have to figure out how to hop on that bandwagon. Let's see, Michael Davis. Thanks for introducing me, a blues guitarist, to Red Volkart's playing. I saw him in concert Friday night and loved it. I was like a fish out of water musically, but great guitar is great guitar. Yeah, Red is just a phenomenal person and a phenomenal player. And he's a treat to be around, and a wealth of knowledge, and someone that's dedicated his life to playing the guitar. And he plays great, and he has a appreciation, you know, well-rounded, you know, whether it's Ritchie Blackmore and Jeff Beck to Roy Buchanan, you know, all sorts of stuff that's not country. And he's, you know, a more versatile player than sometimes he lets on. So he's a great guy. Zach, can you play some cool dissonant jazzy riffs? I am not a jazzy dude. The most you're going to get from me is like, oh, first let's put it on the old neck pickup. We're going to turn off the slap back, and let's get some we'll get some delay going. Woo! I'm not really dissonant. So, sorry, I don't know a whole lot of dissonant jazz. So, oh, Caleb says, have you ever thought about doing a video on Phil Baugh? I think it'd be a good one. Yeah, I think so too. He was really important in both the Bakersfield and Nashville studio scenes. Of course, he played on some of the early Merle stuff. Yeah, Swinging Doors is Phil Baugh, and there's some other stuff that's Phil Baugh. And he would use a Telecaster with a Bigsby and a volume pedal. And sometimes he would use a Mosrite. So I think he might have been already onto the Mosrite by the time he was doing the Merle Haggard stuff. Hit Zach's like button. Thank you, Telecaster Bear. Let's see. What picks do you use? Well, I'm using this blue chip pick. It is a TPR 35 and then RP, and it's kind of an interesting shaped pick because it's kind of like having a bunch of shoulder. And then I have these DeAndrea picks that are kind of a medium heavy gauge, and so these are the two picks I use. And yes, they have my logo on them. Helps me keep track of them, and it's just fun to have. I built a F2A amp from a schematic. What speaker do you recommend? Yeah, you know, keep with an 8-inch, but maybe you ought to try an Alnico and get one from Weber. You know, just make sure it's the right ohmage. Riffs, beards, and gear, Chris Quinn says. Are there any differences between a 64 to early Blackface 67 Deluxe Reverber, or are they built the same circuit-wise? You know, when you switch, in January of 65, you switched to CBS ownership. And one of the things they did was they stopped chrome plating the chassis. And so it's, I forget what the later chassis, so the early chassis, the ones made in 64, are really shiny, and because they're chrome plated. And I think the later ones were zinc plated. So I don't think that has anything to do with the sound. Apparently there were some early 64 Deluxes that had a different output transformer on them, but I have not heard proof of that. Otherwise, of course, you can get different speakers in those amps because they had multiple suppliers. So you could get one with a Utah, an Oxford, or a Jensen. And so those speakers, even though they were they were supposed to be all to the same spec, they all sounded slightly different. None of them were great. I think all original Blackface Deluxe Reverb speakers are pretty bad. Every once in a while you'll hear a really good one, but it's kind of rare. I think usually the amp sounds better with a replacement speaker, whether it's a JBL or a Vintage 30 or a Alessandro or something better. Texas Jazz. Nice. Mark Larkin says, nice chords, nice tone, nice Telecaster, enjoy your tone. Thank you. Otto says, have you ever looked into Peter Green Jazz and as we are at it, Tim Lurch? Well, I love Tim Lurch, and I've interviewed Tim Lurch, and if you haven't seen that interview, go watch it. It's on the True Tone Lounge. Watch my interview with Tim Lurch. We talked a lot about Telecasters. He's one of my heroes, and what a great player. When were the first Nashville Tellies? You know, I think the first Nashville Tellies were the ones built by Joe Glazer that had a third pickup. Albert Lee, you know, started adding a middle pickup around the same time period. So it's hard to say who was first with that, but yeah. I kind of give credit to Joe Glazer for the third pickup Nashville Telly thing. So, any thoughts on the Aquapus for slapback and delay? Yeah, it's a great pedal. Yeah, get one. Caleb says, love the 70s and 80s videos of Phil Ball using his T60 with the MSA pedal attachment. Yeah, those are really cool. Should a noise gate be the first thing from the guitar? No, you want a noise gate to be further down the line if you have noisy effects. If you have a noisy guitar, then yeah, you could put the noise gate earlier. Yeah, not a dumb question. Let's see. Maybe lightest flat wounds and moving to more legato-oriented technique that limits some stress. We're getting old. Yeah, good idea. Do you know personally or not Jim Heath? Wow, that sounds really familiar. You're gonna have to give me more information than that. The name sounds really familiar. Yusuf123. In your experience, do the Fender custom shops get as close as they get to the real thing, or they don't come close? And what are your thoughts on guitars that come close? Man, every guitar has to be taken on its own merit. And I think, you know, I've played some great custom shop guitars. I've played some complete dogs. And, you know, there are guys like Dan Strain, Telecaster, that, you know, has consistently good stuff. And that's because it's, you know, really one guy with a couple guys helping him out. I think it just comes down to you got to play a bunch of guitars. And if you buy something sight unseen, you need to have at least like a 48-hour approval period so you can decide whether you like it or not. And if it's a turd, you can, you know, send it back. It's worth paying the charge. Which model JBL loudspeaker would I need for a 12-inch replacement for my Celestion in my Fender Cyberchamp? Well, I mean, JBL's not making guitar speakers anymore, so you'd have to find an old one. I don't know that I'd put one in a Cyberchamp. I'd probably go with, you know, some type of, you know, one of those, oh golly, what is the word? Those, you know, lightweight speakers that are, you know, put in like the Tone Masters and stuff like that. That's probably what I would go with. Or I'd get like the Eminence Alessandro 12-inch speaker. That's a good speaker. Michael Davis says, have you tried a 5060 neck pickup? Yes, I have one in one of my tellies, and I really enjoy it. It's very fat and clear. I really like it. So yeah, it's a great pickup. Reverend Horton Heat. Oh yes, that's who Jim Heath is. No, I have not met him. I would love to meet him, and yeah, I've certainly read a lot about him and heard his playing. So, who has the best guitar tone in Nashville history that you've heard? Reggie Young. Yeah, I think the sounds that he got, you know, from his 69 Telly and his 56 Strat into a deluxe reverb with a handful of pedals, just ridiculously great. Let's see. Have you ever messed around with a Phase 90? Yes. I mean, I think they're great. I especially like the old ones, and the old ones and the reissue ones they can be kind of overdriven if you hit them with a lot of signal at times, and so that's kind of a neat effect. Also, they're very cool. Thanks for answering my questions and for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. Been watching all your videos, but don't comment often. Well, thank you for commenting. Dada Wes, you're welcome. Nice. Charles Provenza. Nice. That a roasted maple neck. Yeah, I still want to play something like that. Kelly Back says Reggie Young. Yes, he's the man, Kelly. Is that the Kelly Back from Texas? Interesting. Furious Mess says Reggie. Okay, so I'm going to say this again because there's more people on now. I've been going, pretty much going straight for about 3 years with weekly episodes, and so I'm going to take a couple weeks off. I will keep doing some shorter episodes for my Patreon supporters, because they supporting me financially on a monthly basis. So I'm going to continue to do some videos for them, but I will be kind of not releasing YouTube videos probably for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I just need to take some time off. Kids are getting back into school. Just also been wanting to do some research on some topics so that I can come back and kind of be a little freshened up, and just need to take a little bit of time for myself. Thank you. And yeah, and if you do want to come over, onto Patreon and catch some of those other episodes, that would be nice. Smash the like, guys. Jason Hobbs says, "What's your favorite book behind you that you'd never part with?" Oh. It's the Guitar Book by Tom Wheeler, and I think it's the second edition. Unfortunately, I don't have the slip cover is off of it, but yeah, it's the Guitar Book revised and enlarged edition, Tom Wheeler, and really good book. And this is where I first learned about, a lot of what I know about guitars started with this book. And one of the things I really loved about this book was this was the first time I saw this ad for the Broadcaster, where they had reprinted a vintage ad of the Broadcaster. And yeah, and this kind of started the Tele thing. And then, of course, later on it went, full insanity after I got the Luxury Liner album. I had to have a Tele, but yeah, that kind of got me going. 58 pickups, took it out of the box and straight to the gig. Nice. I got 58 custom shops. It's lovely. Telecaster Bear says, "I still have my copy that I bought in 1979 with the slipcover." I do still have the slipcover, but I have it in storage because, because I didn't want it to get messed up, being pulled out and stuff. Mine's kind of messed up and it's kind of been taped back together. Bogeyman, thank you so much. I really appreciate the, putting some money in the tip jar. That's greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thanks for all the info, Zach. Learned a lot and fueled my Telecaster needs. I'm very happy to do that. And thank you for, where are you, let's see, is that the euro sign? Yeah. I think so. Or is that the pound sign? You're gonna have to help me out here. I'm don't have my glasses on, but thank you very much. Let's see. Brass compensated saddles. I need to get tough. Yeah, the ones made by Advanced Plating that Philadelphia Lutherie sells are really good. Did the tone mod on my 2009 52 reissue. Love it. Thanks for the knowledge. You're very welcome. Tom Hamby says, "Thanks for everything, Zach." Yes. Otto says it's euro. All right. Thank you. I thought it was the euro mark, so now I can see a little better. And the Netherlands. Nice. I've spent some time in the Netherlands. It's and I really enjoyed it there. And I really enjoyed the countryside I went north of Amsterdam and got to go to Edam and a couple villages that were and I got to see windmills and such. And I really enjoyed seeing just a really kind of peaceful, laid back area. And my kids did not like Amsterdam. We didn't go anywhere near the red light district, but they just didn't like. It was just too busy for them, and the bikes moving so fast around the sidewalks and stuff kind of freaked them out. But yeah, I love the Netherlands and have enjoyed getting to spend time there. So thank you, Bogeyman. It's good to step aside for a minute. You will come back refreshed, and we will enjoy this even more. Thank you, Goldie. Loved your interview with Will McFarlane. I loved getting to do that. Will is such a great player and such a great guy. And it was a hard day because we did 2 interviews back to back because we kind of had to because we went down to Muscle Shoals. And so we did the late Jimmy Johnson, who that one was a really tough interview because he was only a couple months away from dying. And he wanted to do the interview. But at the same time, I felt kind of bad because he was in really bad health. And, but that was really special. And Will McFarlane made that happen. And so then we interviewed Jimmy Johnson in the morning. We went to lunch at Chappie's and had, fish and chicken strips and things like that. They're in Muscle Shoals. And then we interviewed Will McFarlane in the afternoon. And Will was great. And yeah, very fun. Let's see. Is there a hard rock metal scene in Nashville? There could be. I'm not sure. That's kind of out of my realm. So I did play a show opening for the hard rock band, a Christian band, Striper, with my friend Jamie Rowe, who was in the hard rock Christian band Guardian. And so I played an acoustic show with him opening for Striper a couple of weeks ago at the Basement. So. And they certainly are, more hard rock. So 43 Gits Later. Yeah, it's a good book, Chris. Furious Mess. The collabs with 5 Watt World are always cool. Thank you. I enjoy working with Keith. He's a good guy. Oh, do you notice a big difference between the 9.5s and the 10s? I'm 68 and have the same arthritis issue and usually play 10s. It is different. It's enough where it helps your hands out. I would really recommend you try them out. It's not so much that they flop around, because when you go from 10 to 9s, it's too much of a difference. And it just feels like you're playing rubber bands. But the 9.5s are kind of a good, and that's what I have on the guitar right now. So yeah, you should try them. They make them in the regular set, and they also make them in the NYXL. So however you can find them, I would definitely get a set and try them out. I think you'll like them. Telecaster Bear says, I need a low profile set of saddles for my tele build. Tone Ninja 3 saddle set worked for this particular build. Your results may vary. Very cool. I'll have to look at those. Wilson Jones says, have a good break. And he put some money in the pot. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Wilson. Jamie Britton says, grease bucket tone on my Telecaster doesn't sound like I think it should. I have a Seymour Duncan broadcaster pickup. Should I wire it in a regular tone? I would just use a regular tone control on there and take that out. Yeah, I think you'll be happier. Tom Hamby, nice. Enjoy your time off. Very nice. At 71, I'm switching to 9s from 10s. It helps. Yeah, it's good. And Furious Mess, you ought to try the 9.5s. That's my dog's barking in the background. I think my daughter is getting back from getting a haircut. Fox Ott, I took grease bucket out of my telly. Well, there you have a vote for taking it out. All right, guys. Well, it's 3 o'clock, 3:01. Been on for an hour and 15 almost. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'm going to say thank you so much. I feel like I ought to end with the old Ask Zac theme. Got some delay going there. All right. Thank you so much. All right. See you later.